Good morning, New Zealand, and good evening, South Africa.
Good morning. I think the South Africans are
South
wondering
Africans
where
are
we
still
are.
sleeping. Or no, they are
Oh,
going to
now.
sleep, yeah. So, yeah, it's been daylight savings. Let me just change the camera so I can get my beautiful wife in the picture as well. Daylight savings here has moved time a bit for us, but we stayed on the same time every morning, 7 o'clock, Thursday morning. This morning, we're talking to Karin Blaauw. She's an exceptional agent. I don't want to put this up there.
You must just say what agent. What kind of agent?
You think she's a secret agent? She's an estate agent. And this year, Karin Blaauw, or this month, Karin Blaauw has been in the top 20 of her team. Top 20. Number 18 for Karin Blaauw, the only South African on this top 20. Karin, good morning.
Hello, morning Jan. Hello, Mariska.
How
Hello.
are you?
Very good this morning, thank you.
How does this feel?
Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are basically top of your game. You are out there. You are helping people. I've heard so many good things about you. That's why we thought let's talk to Karin again. We've had you previously on the show, so let's say welcome back as well. But this morning I want to touch about a few things. A lot of people are getting a residence now, and they are going to buy a house. So we're sitting with this problem. Uh, they have saved up. House prices have moved up. They are struggling to get mortgages. Uh, I feel a lot of them is in the market, and a lot of them are probably looking at the wrong areas and so on. What do you say to a person who, for the first time in their life, has to buy a house in New Zealand?
My usual recommendation would be like, what is it? We actually go with a checklist, okay? So my thing would be, let's have a coffee. Let's sit down. Let's discuss what you would like to do. And 9 out of 10 times, people have not done enough research. There are those buyers that's done enough research, that knows what's the different tools to use, etc. But for people that hasn't, done a bit of research, they need help. And I believe people tend to think I can do this myself. And I think after 6 months, they phone me back and say, shit, I still haven't found a house. Can you help me? So it really starts with that personal interaction. And, sometimes I get people phoning me because I'm on the shore. I've recently moved into the Hibiscus Coast. But even people phoning me from Cambridge, from other parts, just asking them questions like, what are you looking at? Things like search indicators, which we can talk about. So there's a lot of aspects. And I always say to somebody, you're not going to buy your dream home most likely as your first home.
Yeah. How difficult is it for someone? I know most people say we'll never be able to buy a house. That's the first thing that they say. We realized we're never going to be able to buy a house. I mean, you have to save. So how difficult is it to come to that point where you are able to buy a house?
I find, especially when people say I'm never going to be able to buy a house, I have to correct them and tell them, no, it's not impossible. If you have a plan and you stick to your plan, even if it's a 5, especially there's a lot of young immigrants coming into New Zealand. If you're 30 years old and you have a plan, and if that plan is for 10 years, when you're 40, it's okay to buy a house at 40. My husband's 45 and we bought our first home end of last year, and it's okay. So
Almost
just
50.
plan. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you how old were you, Jan, when you bought your
Yeah.
But I think it's just, it can happen. I think the mistake people make is they pay very high rent to live in this big fancy dream home, and take $200 off a week. That's $1,000 a month. Put that away. You'll be surprised with what you can save, and that's just by saving on rent. Take off and eat out every week. That's $400 a month. So there you're sitting with $1,500 a month just by those two things.
Yeah. Do you think it's once again that thing of the South African way of living? You think you should be in the best area, the best house? You should actually just change your mindset a little bit.
It's unfortunately, shall I say, a very typical thing. I find that because we come from South Africa, our home was our absolute pride and joy, because that was one of the main things we held on to that made us feel good about ourselves, because there were so many other negative elements.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, I spoke to a lady 2 days ago. She's got $1 million. And she says to me, what am I going to buy? Where am I going to buy? Am I ever going to find something? I
Yeah.
said to her, you are in a position to get into the market. Probably not going to be the area or the house you want to be in, but in 2 years' time, sell off that $1 million house, and then you can buy your $1.4 million home.
Yeah.
That is a
Yeah.
typical South African thing, yes.
But you got to start somewhere. This is the big thing, and a lot of people forget about that. You need to start somewhere, and if you need to start back to square one, where you start saving for your first house, that is where you start then. So, house
100%.
prices, current house prices. Let's talk about the evil thing out there. So, have you seen them drop to below previous record or to below previous selling points?
What's happened is, remember when we were in lockdown, and I'll use ourselves as a typical example. We've been in the country now for 4.5 years. And obviously, being an agent, I have to have my own house, eh? You
Of course.
so, so it was a huge goal. We really had a goal set, like timelines, plans, saving. Whenever I sell a house, I'll put X amount back into to create a separate account to say, this is our house deposit account. And you'll be surprised how that account grows. So when I started over 3 years ago, I sold homes to clients, and it was nice homes, for say $950,000, and that would be on the North Shore, 3 bedroom, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. That was 3 years ago. Last year, I sold 2 of those clients' typicals homes, and I sold it for 1.25, 1.277. So I think I want to start with that. The growth that you get within a year or 2 years is something that you're never going to get back in South Africa.
Yeah.
So there you've put it in simple terms, 2.5 million rands that you've made.
Yes.
All of a sudden, those clients have got more than a 20% deposit, lower interest rate, and they can go and buy another house.
Yes.
So from a pricing perspective, yes, Auckland property, and I mean in the rest of New Zealand as well now, look at Tauranga, the prices have done, I think we've had a growth of about 28% from lockdown to now.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was, we were one of those. We had lockdown. We had time to do paperwork. We submitted it to the mortgage broker. We had finance approved. So what happened is this funnel was sitting there full of buyers, okay?
Yes.
And that funnel was stuck because nobody could get out of their homes to go and buy a house. The typical seller is reading the property news and it's saying the market's going to crash. But it did completely the opposite, because we had very low stock. It's the typical supply and demand. We had low stock and we had heaps of buyers. So it ended up being, we went to auction and we had 7, 8 buyers a property. So people were probably paying, I will never say you pay too much for your house in New Zealand, but they were paying premium price for their property.
Yeah.
So what's happened since is we've got a lot more stock. Interest rates have gone up. Now buyers have gone lesser. So now the market is correcting itself. We're not having a market crash. I say you're still having an 18% growth because it's dropped 10%, but it's correcting itself.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say.
Which is good news.
And
Yes.
I doubt if there's ever going to be any time that the market will fall below the price that the people paid for that.
No.
So
No.
there's just too much or too many people that needs homes in this country for that ever to happen. So If anybody's out there that needs any or want to ask Karin any questions regarding homes or so forth, feel free to just pop them on. I'll have a look on my other channel as well. Karin, so what else is happening in the mortgage, or what else is happening in the home market? How's the stock?
It the stock is high. I say to buyers, I've had 3 calls on Wednesday from people, Karin, I got my residency, where do I start? And I said to them, and I said to them, don't wait too long.
Yeah.
Don't wait for months and think the prices are going to be dropping even more. I said to my office yesterday, I said to them, for us as agents, the market has gone extremely quiet, where I would have 40 people through a auction campaign. We can talk about auctions a bit later.
Yes, I
I
wanted.
only I only have 8 people. So my demand has dropped significantly. And other problem we're sitting with is our sellers are still up here. They want
Yeah.
that premium
Yeah.
price, but buyers are sitting here. So now
Yeah.
we're getting more and more negotiations going. But if you can buy in the next 2 to 3 months, don't wait for the perfect home. Just get into the market. That's
Yeah.
what you have to do. Just get
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit about auction because I know most people are a little bit scared of auctions.
It's the one thing I hate.
Yeah, it's like if a house is on auction, we don't even want to go look at it. How does it work, and what is the emotions around that? Because I just feel it's draining, isn't it?
It is. Um, I think when I started, I struggled to get my head around this whole auction thing. It was really, really hard to get my head around it because coming from where we come from, an auction is when it's you've lost your house and that's a mortgagee
Yes,
sale, eh?
yes,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
So I when I work with buyers, sometimes, yes. I mean, there's cost involved because you need to, when you go and you buy at auction, you're buying when that hammer falls, you're buying unconditionally, meaning your finance is in place, you've done your builder's report, and your solicitors check that all the documents, that the homes are consented, that everything is consented. So you're looking at about 1,005, no, I'd say about $1,200 before you've even bought the house.
Yeah.
And in a very busy market, you can spend a lot of money, especially if you've got a tight budget to get to that point. In this current market, if you're not at the auction, you probably, because people are at a wait and see approach, let's see what happens, then I'll make a move.
Yeah.
But you have to, especially in Auckland, you can now at this current moment, if you're the only person on the floor, you've got the power in your hand because that seller knows what these agents been telling him. We don't have cash buyers. So if you are cash buyer, meaning the bank has approved you, if you're there, you're going to have negotiation power because we'll
yeah,
negotiate you with, we'll show the vendor, there's your seller sitting right there. He's not willing to pay 1.2 million. He's willing to pay 1.15. 9
yeah,
out of 10 times that will happen.
yeah,
Okay. I always say to buyers, when you sell your house, and I've said that to you before, Jan, you bought your house. If you're going to sell it, would you price it and be negotiated down? Or would you put it on auction and let people fight over it and get premium price?
it's true.
So
Yeah,
it's
I,
a
I,
It
big
is
I,
true.
I fully understand that way of working, but for me, it's all about the fall of the hammer. I've been to one auction only, and I was amazed. I mean, they started this house off at a price above what I even thought it was worth, and they ran up within a few minutes. I think it was less than 5 minutes. They ran up another $150,000 on top of that. And the girls were standing and crying. I could see women crying because they could not afford that.
it's highly
It's very
emotional.
Yeah, and it
emotional.
wasn't a great house. To be quite frank, it
Yeah.
wasn't a great house. So,
And I want to say, I think that's where Karen is really,
where you excel in your business, yeah,
you get the
yeah,
emotion behind it.
Hmm.
And not only for the women, but you get the emotion you get what's happening in your relationship when you are trying to buy a house. It's a really difficult situation to be in.
Thank you.
It's hard. So I think that's where you're great at doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, because I understand. I always say to especially the South Africans that, I know that their deposit is your blood money from the
Yes.
last 15 years plus that you've been working for in South Africa.
Mm.
And now all of a sudden, the hardest feeling when you get that house is having to press that pay button from your bank account, from having everything you worked for being
I know.
transferred into that deposit account. It's a harsh feeling. And I think that's what people appreciate is that, it's a transaction, but there's people and there's a massive financial impact, behind this.
Yeah.
But the joy of once you're in your house, that's just such an amazing feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
My thoughts on this was that morning I had to press that button. I was looking at that money and I thought, geez, this is a 20% deposit. I could have bought a house cash in South Africa.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you shouldn't think like that.
But I'm a South African.
Someone is commenting here, the prices looking from outside will scare prospective immigrants.
Yeah, that's no fun. I fully agree. It is
True,
scary, yeah.
but
Scary.
still you must remember when you're here and you're living in New Zealand and you're earning dollars, it changes your mindset.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit, I don't know, more. It's like something that you can reach actually. It doesn't seem that impossible when you're young.
Another Benita Herban saying congrats on being the top agent in Browns Bay. So congrats.
Thank you. No, it's not in Browns Bay. It's on the North Shore.
The North Shore.
Hundreds of agents.
Benita, it's North Shore. Buy a house from Karin. So. Karin, just a question from my side. Agent or mortgage agent or mortgage advisor versus the bank?
You know what? Sometimes people tend to get a much quicker answer from their own bank, okay? Because the bank will look after the people that work, that's members of the bank.
Yeah.
Some people will say if you want to move banks, you have to change your bank accounts, and it's not true. A mortgage broker will.
There's a lot of mortgage advisors that tells their clients that.
I know. So I mean, typically, to give you an idea, we with ANZ, we ended up getting a mortgage through Kiwi Bank within 2-3 weeks. We got a mortgage with a less than 20% deposit. We only had a 14% deposit. The thing is that a mortgage broker, the benefit of working with a mortgage broker is they've got different tools, very, very good tools. Like you as financial advisor have got tools, I as real estate agent have tools, a mortgage broker have got tools. And they will look at your scenario because obviously they look at you and the way that you spend with a very fine comb, and they will determine where would you be a good fit. Now, sometimes people they've got debt, they need to kill their debt to get more deposit, and that's where a mortgage broker will find a better fit for you because they talk about first tier, second tier, and third tier lending. And they will probably find you a better interest rate. So you might wait, because I know our SIFs, we want it now,
yes.
We decide, we wake up, right, I've got my deposit, I'm going to buy the house tomorrow. And that's a very, very true thing of us. But a week or 10 days of getting that guy or woman, whoever it is, to go through your finances and determining where would be to have two options at least for you, and getting, a 0.5% or 1% in interest rate. And I think it's good to have a second opinion. I'm a true believer of get another opinion, because sometimes I always say if I refer people, I refer them to two people, because they might not like me, but they might like another person. It's about a personality fit as well.
True.
So, I would say mortgage broker.
Yeah. I just found that when we did our mortgage I was strung along by mortgage brokers, and then eventually I went to the bank, and we had a pre-approved loan within an hour, basically.
I think that it is just to get the right person.
Yeah.
That's
The
it.
thing is just to get the right person that will look after you and not only after themselves.
So
That's it.
Yeah. Because
I'm gonna-
someone, put that up.
I've got a comment here, and I just want to take one portion of the comment. Ultimately, the banks will control the market. One reason there is so many stock. The other reason is agents promising vendors unexpected high prices.
True.
That is a thing that I've been seeing the last few days. I've been looking at a little house down here, not very far from me. And if you go into the one roof and those type of areas, which gives an idea of what the house will be valued at, the house was valued at top at 780,000. Okay, I contacted the agent, and the agent told me now the vendor is looking at over 800 offers. So the agent must have told the vendor, well, you can get this large amount of money, and I think it's unrealistic. Is that the right word?
It's like there's a few terms that they use. It's like they call it buying a listing. Okay, so we've got rife competition out here. It's, as they say, dog eat dog.
Yeah.
You
It's like the insurance field.
Exactly. Thousands of agents. I mean, just in my company alone, we have 1,600 agents, and that's just Barfoot and Thopmson. So just in Auckland itself, we're probably about 4,000 agents to 1,500,000 people. It's harsh competition. Okay? So people will always be negotiating fees. We're always having to negotiate fees, cut fees, pay marketing comms, etc. And the other way of agents getting business is they're making unrealistic appraisal numbers. Okay, but there's two things that happen. Is I especially found it. I would have seen clients in December, and they would only launch their property in January, February. Now, what happened in December, and what happened in February, two very different markets. Okay, and sometimes it is that communication. Some agents are great communicating. Others are just, let me just see what I can get for you. Okay, so communication is key, and unfortunately, it happens so that even within a month's time, when you thought a property would be worth 1.6, how prices are dropping on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And I would sit with a client and say, you are in your area, in 500 meters, there's 35 properties for sale. Do you want to sell in a month's time, or do you want to sell tomorrow?
Yeah.
And that's the conversation that you have to have. And I had a conversation with a client like that about 2 weeks ago. We made our price that it sort of looks the most attractive, and we sold.
Yeah.
So it's the motivation for the vendor as well.
Yeah.
If they want to make a quick buck in this market, if they bought 10 years ago, they're still going to make a good amount of money. Bought a year ago, they probably won't.
Yeah. So for you, it's actually looking after the vendor and looking after. You have to look at both sides and look after both sides the best you can.
I call myself a matchmaker.
Oh yes, you are.
The property Tinder person.
Just help me, I can start a page. It's really about being remember, as an agent, we are being paid by the seller. They are paying us. So we have to look after our vendor. We are being employed by the vendor.
Yes.
But I think just one small thing, a tip I want to give the typical buyer, and that's why people tend to not get properties they want. Remember, you've got auction and buy negotiations. You've got no idea what that person's actually looking for.
Yeah.
So you've got your search indicators on Trade Me, on real estate, homes, all these different websites. So if your budget, for example, is $1.1 million, don't make your search indicator 1 to 1.1. Make it 900 to 1.050 if you can.
Okay.
And the reason for that is when we put properties into the system, obviously there's a lot of things behind the scenes. If I have a property that's worth 1.2, I will make my search indicator 1.1 to 1.2, because you're pulling in that buyer within that price range. So if your maximum budget's 1.1, it's going to pull you in there, and you're going to be looking at properties that's worth 1.2. So you're looking at the wrong property. So those are just the things that when you work with an agent, they can also provide you with some guidance, because we have information behind the scenes
that you don't know about.
That's a very good tip, because I see for myself, even when I look at trade media, you get stuff that's extremely overpriced for what I thought it would be. So, yeah.
Some people have got very wide searches. They'll go from, if a property is 1.3 million, and I know for a fact that's what they want, it will be 1 to 1.3. So you're giving that poor guy with 1.1 very high hope in terms of what he can do. But it's not really what he can get.
I've got an interesting question from Rodolphe van Tonder, and I think that's more a financial question. So if you do not want to answer this, I fully understand that, because I actually think it's a financial answer. I can answer that question from my side as well. But he says, I was given advice in South Africa that if you pay double your payment, you can pay off your 20-year loan in 4.5 years. Can one become such a mogul when it comes to New Zealand? Can one own as many properties as one wants? So basically 2 questions.
So I know the banks penalize you if you pay too much.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I was just spoken to the bank yesterday, and if I pay more, they penalize you every time you pay in. So what she actually told me is, if I want to pay more, I must put the money somewhere until the mortgage come up for renewal, which is every year, 2 years or 3 years, and then I pay that amount in at the date of renewal.
That's it.
And then there's no penalizing on that.
Because it works on the equity. I just want to say something there. So what to link with what you're saying there is, what many people do is, when your property comes up for renewal, then, so for example, we had a less than 20% deposit. But by the time that our year, 2 years, 3 years are done, you get a valuer in and you get your property re-evaluated. And then you can put your cash in when you do the re-evaluation. Then you do a new lending program, as I can call it, because then you're on a lower than more than 20% deposit. So then you can put your cash in and get a lower interest rate.
So there is a way to pay it off quicker.
No, there is a way to pay it off quicker. The other question that I had is, can one own as many properties as one wants?
Yes. Just need to comply with the new rules that they've put in place. Because remember, New Zealand never had the kapitaalwinstbelasting and all those. They've only introduced it, last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Another reason why we should not vote for Labour again. So
let's not talk
politics. Let's not politics. Anita just making the remark, banks don't want you to pay off the mortgage quickly, they lose their interest.
Exactly.
That is basically one of the big problems that banks have with people paying their mortgages. So, all right, Christo Langeveld is a lawyer, saying, regarding multi-offers, why do some agents tell... Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Thanks, Christo. Why do some agents tell purchasers they have only purchases, and as soon as they have made a written offer, it all of a sudden becomes a multi-offer, and the purchaser is told to amend his or her offer if they want it?
That happened to us.
That happened to us.
I can honestly tell you, I always wondered, how does that happen? Okay? Because I will have a property on the market. I've just had one. It was almost 3 months. Okay? It was due to expire. Literally, a week before the expiry, I had an offer on the Friday. And that evening, another client came to me and said, I also want to make an offer. My vendor haven't made a decision yet, so you have to create a multi-offer because it's in the best interest of the vendor. Because when you create a multi-offer, the seller or the buyer signs an acknowledgement stating, I know that I am a part of a multi-offer, therefore I'm now having to make my best offer. And believe it or not, I always ask my colleagues, when does a multi-offer happen? It happens. And I don't know why, but it usually when it's, because remember, if I get an offer, I inform everybody else I've got an offer, because remember, if you looked at a property, you would also like to have the opportunity, because I'll get people, let me know when you get something. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I don't let them know and they see the property sold tomorrow, I'll be in trouble. They'll
Yes.
phone me and say,
Yeah.
why did you not let me know?
Yeah.
So again, for the buyer's benefit, plus for the vendor's benefit, you're informing everybody, and it just happens so.
Okay.
Well, it happened to us. We were sitting down and we were signing all the papers as the only offer on the table, and suddenly there was 3 offers on the table.
Yeah.
And we played their bluff, okay, and there was another offer. So all right, Karin, we wanted to talk a lot to you about your kids and so forth, but time has come and gone. And
It was really
once
good.
again, congrats on becoming one of the best agents in the show. So, yeah,
Thank you.
we're gonna chuck you out and say goodbye to the people, but stay in there. We're gonna talk to you afterwards again.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's no problem. And that was Karin Blaauw from Barfoot and Thopmson, one of the best agents that I know. I send a lot of people her way. So if you need help with that, pop in. All right, guys and girls, that's us next week. Same time, same place. Yep. It's Easter week.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, it's Easter weekend. Yeah.
Mm.
Lang naweek. Okay. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.